Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us on this, the 12th of hopefully many episodes of Bard Advice, a D&D advice podcast where I, Charles Chaz Yazik, the DM, the Bard, do my best to answer any of your D&D inquiries. I hope everybody's doing well this Friday evening. Things are going a little banana town all over the planet, but, we press on. It's really all that we can do. Hello, Chris, Daryl, Cephas. Welcome. So, here we are into episode 12, and I gotta tell you, gang, I think you're gonna be proud of me. At least I'll tell you this, I'm proud of me. Because I took notes. I took extensive notes for this episode. So, we'll see how well that helps us. So, a couple of things at the top of the episode. As always, just a reminder, the email is bardadvice@gmail.com. As we all know, it also looks like bardadvice. It's easy to remember. bardadvice@gmail.com. Please send questions. Also, on that, I have a note here. See, already I'm using my notes. Follow-ups is a thing that I want to start doing because there was a friend of the podcast from last week who asked a question, Carl, and has follow-up information to that stuff. So I'm not gonna go over that tonight, but I am gonna go over that next week. But I'm going to start doing that. So if, you have had a question answered and you have either not implemented or implemented advice that you have gotten either from me or from chat, from this podcast, follow up. Let us know how things are going so that we can kind of check in. That'd be just kind of cool to see. Hello from Detroit, Jack. And Flint, hey, how are you? Sorry you've missed the last few episodes, but welcome to this one. So yeah, send questions, please, to bardadvice@gmail.com. Also, another plug here quickly. You can get your merch at manshorts.com. As always, any of the super chats or like Patreon stuff, becoming a member of the channel, any of that stuff is super helpful for us. And if you have such interest in donating to my music stuff directly, I'm currently working on my third album, Organized Lightning, and working to get out No GL. My buddy Bobby is finishing up the mixing and mastering of that, so that should be released soon. But in the meantime, I'm working on their third album. So if you want to contribute to that directly, you can do so at my PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, which are all Yazik, YAHZICK. So let's get into some stuff. For Art Corner this week, because I don't know if anybody has noticed, but I have a new a new little poster there behind me, which is the infamous crew of One Piece, which is what I really wanted to talk about actually for this week's Art Corner, is just how awesome One Piece is. Now, a buddy of mine, Justin, got me into One Piece after trying ferociously for a long time, and I eventually caved. And I've been reading the manga. I'm about 300-ish chapters in. Finally, I'm done with Skypiea. Man, Skypiea is so long. But I would just like to talk a little bit about One Piece. If anyone is not familiar, it is an anime. Well, first it's a manga. So let's put this up. This is One Piece. This is the crew. So in the middle there you have Luffy. It's really a story about him, but it's also a story about all the other members of the crew. The reason I like this manga and anime so much is that it's essentially a D&D party. And I made a TikTok about that before, where I talked about how it's essentially a D&D party. It really is. I do want to do a breakdown as to like what which character is which class. But yeah, if you haven't and you've ever considered it, I highly recommend One Piece. It's cool because you have, your main character Luffy there in the middle with the straw hat. His goal is to become the king of the pirates. And so, as such, he amasses a crew, all of which have their own incentive for being there, as well as contribution to the party, which is what I think makes it like a D&D party. My favorite character is Tony Chopper. Look at him. Chopper, you can't not love Chopper. Now, Chopper is the doctor of the group. He is a reindeer that ate the human fruit. I don't want to get too into detail as to all of the One Piece stuff, but you really should look into it. I highly recommend it. I also, on that note, they're going to be making a live action, which I've heard that Oda is the author of the manga. Ichiro Oda is really I don't know how involved he's in, but I've heard that he's really signed off on it and is happy with it. So that makes me happy. I think that the guy that they've got to play Luffy, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's Anaki Godoy is his name. I'm not very familiar with his work as an actor, but his energy and look screams Luffy. So I'm very excited about that. So sorry to anybody who doesn't really care about about One Piece or anime in general. I just wanted to gush about that because I love One Piece. It's really great. So that's Art Corner. I did make a couple of notes here just on some things that are going on. Obviously, you know, we've got all kinds of stuff. Derailments, UFOs. I'm just trying to, if anything, it makes me want to get more and more into like my storytelling. It's really inspired me to get writing my scripts. The Last of Us, that show's been popping off. Now, last week it aired on Friday night because the Super Bowl. And that happened, which I don't know. I don't know that anybody really cares about here. But the D&D movie is coming soon. Yes, that's true, Chris. Thanks for that reminder. Just a couple of weeks at this point, right? Well, it's the end of March, right? Because the Mario movie, the Mario movie comes out, and then D&D comes out the week after. Hello. Oh, hey, Justin. Oh, Justin, I was just talking about One Piece. You totally missed it, dude. Look at this. Look at all of this stuff, this artwork I got prepared for the show for One Piece. And Tony Chopper and Anaki Godoy. It's going to be awesome. I'm just telling people how much I love the One Piece world. Yes, March 31st is the new D&D movie. I'll be interested to see how it performs. I'll tell you what. I'm definitely not going to a theater to see it. And I don't know if I'll even see it. It might just be a thing where I just see how other people react to it. So yeah, the Super Bowl happened, but Last of Us happened too. And, you know, no spoilers, but last week was a banger episode. And I will say that without any kind of spoilers, anybody that has seen it and is current, the thing that just happened last week, that one particular creature that we were introduced to, supposedly the makeup effects for that suit cost $500,000. And it took the guy an hour to put on. And then when I saw that it cost $500,000, the first comment on the post was the first comment on the post was somebody's walking around with $499,000 in their pocket. Which, you know, I will say that it does look very detailed. Likely most of that cost was in just man hours of work that went into doing all of the Jim Carrey and the Grinch. What are you talking about? We should do a One Piece episode of D&D Edition. Yeah, I'd like to do that as well. Maybe that's what Anime 2 will be, but knowing me, it'll probably be it by itself, just a One Piece edition. Chopper is a barb cleric. Yeah, maybe. I think Druid's in there. Yeah, gotta be. Okay. And then Peepsy. I made a TikTok about that today too. I don't know if anybody's seen that craziness that it's not new. Evidently, it existed previously. I didn't know about it. I guess that they had it in 2021. But there's a Pepsi that tastes like Peeps. And I think that it's incredibly short-sighted of PepsiCo to not call it Peepsy. Right? I mean, it's right there. It took like 4 seconds of thinking. No one in now, first of all, it's terrible for you. I had some of one today, and it is a lot. It's very, very sweet. It's what you think it would taste like. But the fact that they didn't call it Peepsy is kind of disturbing to me. Hey, Pepsi, you need help in the marketing department? Shoot me an email, bardadvice@gmail.com. All right, let's get into some questions. We've been kind of bumbling around a little bit here in the first 10 minutes or so. First question we're going to jump into is from Julie. And let's get this going. Julie asks, "Hello, Bard. Love the show and the D&D editions. After my friend introduced me to your channel, it wasn't long before she convinced me to play, based. Our campaign starts next month, and this will be my first PC. Are there any common mistakes or pitfalls that I should avoid as a beginner?" Alrighty, so sorry, I had to grab a drink of water. I wrote down some things for this in the notes section. Welcome to the fold, first of all, Julie. I'm glad that you're playing. It makes me happy to know that it was our channel that inspired you to play, or at least aided your friend in her convincing you to play. So, exciting. Welcome. You're going to love it. It's chaos, and your first campaign is going to definitely not go how you think it is. So that would be my first piece of advice, is to throw any kind of preconceptions out the window, because you have no idea what is going to happen. Some other notes that I made here. Alignments matter. I think I've spoken ad nauseum about my first character being a paladin in 3.5. Of course, in 3.5, paladins have to be lawful good. If you do anything that's not lawful good, then you lose your alignment and then forfeit all your stuff and abilities. You can't really be a non-lawful good paladin in 3.5 unless you are either a blackguard, which is like an evil version of a paladin, or a gray guard, which allows for wiggle room in like the neutral chaos world. So alignments matter, not as much in 5e, right? Because I don't know extensively about the paladin in 5e, but from what I understand, Oathbreaker's kind of like built in as a choice, as an option. So I guess that it matters less in that regard, but alignment matters. Be yourself, your character self. So I don't like the idea. I've said before, I don't like the idea of, well, that's what my character would do, and just kind of leaning that out as an excuse for everything. But I do think that there's a lot of value in approaching situations as your character and not yourself, which is one of the more difficult things to do in your first game, in my experience, just because it's awkward. It's awkward as hell the first time you play. Full stop. It's just going to be weird. But the thing about it is that the more you lean into it and then realize that nobody else around you is going to be like judgy or a certain type of way about it, then you can lean even further into it. And that's what's great too about, like, if you have a group that you've been playing with for a long time, you get really comfortable with each other, and that brings out the best role play, because everybody at the table knows what time it is in terms of where people's boundaries are, is also like what makes people laugh, how to push people. I put another note I have here is don't be afraid to mess up the rules. That's a big deal. It's very intimidating for new players. So it's people don't want to screw up, and they don't want to mess up other people's experience. So it's natural to worry that I've seen in new players people not being really willing or having incentive to speak up per se, because they don't know the rules, or because they think that they can't do something, or if they do something it's going to violate the rules. Don't trip so hard about the rules. I think that that's a bar of mine, in fact, probably in like World's Best RPG. But don't overthink the rules so much. You're going to learn as you go for a lot of it. So I would say just play your character the way you want to. Be true to the character and your party. Don't be afraid to mess up, and then focus on having fun. I put that in there because I think that that's important too. Especially the first couple of sessions as you're learning the rules and feel those kind of intimidating feelings about learning the mechanics of things. Don't forget to have fun in there. While you're stressed about role play and mechanics and what everybody else in the party is doing, and then the overarching story, don't be afraid to have fun in there. Unknown Valor in the chat says, my playstyle is to make sure everyone is having fun at the table, which is way easier said than done. Yeah, that's true. But I agree with that. I think that that's the goal ultimately, right? Is for everybody to have fun. And I think that especially for new players, not only is there the intimidation of coming into a whole new game with new people that may be strangers, but oh my gosh, look at all these texts I have. So have fun, Julie. That's my advice. Don't be afraid to mess up the rules. Be yourself / your character and have fun. Those are the three rules. Why can't a fallen paladin walk straight? He is out of alignment. Thank you, Chris. Next question. Moving right along. Thank you, Julie. Welcome to the game. So the next question we have here. Oh, if I can find it. I made the mistake of... Oh, the next question is from Brack. And Brack asks, favorite non-RPG board game? There's a lot of these. Now, I'll admit, I don't play board games nearly as much as Justin and Melissa. Or really, anybody else. I play the least board games out of everybody. But there are a lot of board games that I love. So I made a list of a couple. And they're kind of all over the place, so you'll have to forgive the eclectic nature of the list. But we'll just run through them. First of all, Justin, it's Monopoly. No. Monopoly, if tomorrow there was an announcement that Monopoly was not going to be a game anymore, that might make me happy, actually. At a minimum, I'd be apathetic. Trivial Pursuit, Catan, Heroscape, Backgammon, Cribbage. Told you these are all over the place. I guess Cribbage is more of a card game. But, I mean, there's a board. Legendary, which is definitely a card game. That's a deck builder game. The Marvel deck builder game. That game is real fun. Scattergories is one of my favorite games. But a lot of my favorite board games are more, I guess, like kind of classic family games and less like of the cool fun games of today. Yahtzee's on there. Risk. Splendor. The Pandemic game's fun. Betrayal at the House on Haunted Hill. Avalon / Werewolf. What is with all of these monopolies? Gloomhaven. I've not ever played it, which is, I'm sure, sacrilege. Ooh, Justin's here. Hi, Justin. Lords of Waterdeep. I've not played that either. I'm just like a knot. Life, the game of life. Oh, I remember that game. Axis and Allies. Oh, dude, remember Stratego? Stratego's fun. HeroScape for sure. That's a window in time. I guess they just don't produce that stuff anymore. Dude, we should make our own. Hey, Justin, let's make our own version of HeroScape. Let's just make like a Hex mini battle game. It'd be fun. Maybe we can find somebody to 3D print the stuff. Talisman, Munchkin. Oh, Munchkin's really fun. I don't know if we're including video games in this one. I think we're just talking board games. Thunder Road is vehicle combat. Oh, that's fun. Blood on the Clock Tower. There's just so many these days, you know? It's kind of a great time to be a board game enthusiast. I'm sure there's lots more. Got a buddy that runs HeroScape with his kids. Yeah, dude, HeroScape is so fun. And we still have so much of the stuff. I think that that's all of them for me. I missed the cluster that was going to be the reboot of HeroScape last year. I guess I did. But does Wizards own here? Yeah, they do, right? Hasbro owns. Well, you know, they've been kind of blowing it across the board lately, you know? Oh, across the board? You know, because of HeroScape. That sucks. That's unfortunate. That makes me even more want to make our own. Let's make our own. Jenga. I like playing the big Jenga. That's fun. Just moved to Jackson. I'm looking for a spot to get into TTRPG. Any tips? Yes, Gulf City Madman. I would recommend checking out either, depending on what side of town you're on. There's FLGS on Highway 17 over in the like Timuquana area. Then there is Darby's Dungeon over on Beach. They're on Beach Boulevard, right? And I think that there's another one. Is there anybody in here from Jack's? Justin, do you know? Isn't there a third? I'm sure that there's a couple more, but I know that there's a third that I can't think of at the moment. But I'd start there, at least for in-person stuff. What's your favorite way to kick off a campaign? Immediate combat, classic tavern, or something else? I mean, immediate combat. You can't go wrong with immediate combat. That's always fun. I think it depends on the party. Yeah? I mean, if you've got like a party of 7, immediate combat is... You're gonna spend the whole session doing that? But as opposed to like a party of 3, that'd be kind of cool to start. I think it varies. I think it depends on the party and what you want to do. Yeah, of course, Gulf City. Welcome to Jacksonville. It's real weird. King of Tokyo. Oh, that's another one. I think I've played that one. So, thank you, Brack. That's the board game combo portion of the podcast. Palladium Riffs? Is it Palladium Riffs? Palladium Riffs? I've not played it. Phase 10. Oh, that game, that's the card game, right? That's Stress City. That and like Skippo. Oh no, miss me with those. Too much stress. Okay. Thank you, Brack. Let's move on to the next question. The next question is from Rich. And Rich asks, my world is rather large. 6 continents in all. My question is, in my general areas, I don't have stat blocks for my encounters. Should I write all those stat blocks or just wait until the PCs are in that general area? So thank you for the question, first of all, Rich. I think it depends on what you are looking to do with the world. I would imagine, first of all, I will note that I read in your email that you noted that your world is all on paper and not on a computer, which is, as you said, sadistic. Also just very like living on the edge, but you do you. 6 continents is big, so that said, I'm sure that your world and your lore is extensive. As to having, I wouldn't, these are the notes that I put, okay? Don't obsess. You can't cover everywhere or everything. I also put, perhaps you create interchangeable encounters that you can plug in anywhere. So it depends. I'm sure that there are obviously everywhere in your world is important, but I'm sure that there are sections of your world that are important in terms of the story. So that said, there are probably specific places that you would want specific encounters to occur, and without railroading players there, you can't really guarantee that they're going to go there. So I actually made a note that says if location is a factor, perhaps you might add a component into the world that allows for rapid travel to those places. Or if you're the DM, you could just like blip them there and then explain all of that away with like big spooky magic later. But I would say that you don't have to cover every single place in the world, or even the main, important places, right? Because in the general areas, there's not stat blocks for encounters. I'll say this: your time, I think, would be better served with doing the things that I mentioned, where if location is important as to where the encounter's happening, then creating some sort of a way for them to be not necessarily forced, but kind of forced to be in that place at that time, or creating interchangeable encounters that can be plugged in anywhere in the world. So, think of it less as what encounter does this place, what encounter happens at this place, and think of it more as creating a series of encounters such that you're able to plug them into any place that they go or you want. And right? Does that make sense? Am I making sense? I think that that's going to be the way that you accomplish what you're wanting to accomplish there. With, you can't cover every single thing, so I wouldn't try. What I would do is I would just create a bunch of encounters so that I could put them wherever I wanted to. And, because you don't know where they're going to go. And if you do it that way, then you can still tell your story. And like I said, if it's a thing where it's like, well, if they fight that guy, it has to be done at the clock tower because that's the whole point of then you can just easily write in a very a bright light flashes and now you're at the clock tower. And you can just explain all of that away later if you want to. It was all a dream that led them to where the story should take them. Currently playing a TTRPG just on break mode until the DM comes back. What did I miss? Not much. Just chatting about the process of world building and being able to kind of account for all possibilities. Yeah, I don't think that you need specific stat blocks unless you want them. Now, all of that said, if indeed you do have an encounter that you want to happen at the place and you don't want to set it up where they're teleported to it immediately and you just want them to come upon it naturally, then of course, yeah, right? Like write that stat block out. But I doubt that you really, really want to do that for everyone or you wouldn't have asked the question. So I would say just come up with a couple of 5 or 6 interchangeable encounters that could really happen anywhere. And then just let the story unfold, let the party go where they want to go naturally. And just, drop those encounters in. And that kind of makes it fun for you almost because, you can make a list of 5, 6, 7, 10, however many encounters you want to have in the chamber. And then if you really wanted to make it fun, then you could roll dice for yourself as to randomize what encounter they get. So it's kind of fun for you too, because it's like, oh, now they're fighting werewolves in the garden, and I didn't even plan or expect for that. So that's why I like quest-driven adventures with small side possibilities. My friend was showing me his tool shed and pointed to a ladder. That's my step ladder, he said. I never knew my real ladder. Start reasonably and grow from there using counter tables. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you could just use encounter generators too. You don't even have to write them all up yourself if you don't want to. I know World Anvil has a bunch of like random generators. And I'm sure you can find them all over the place elsewhere online too. So personally, I don't think that you need to have like an encounter for everywhere. I think it's actually smarter and it serves you better to have, excuse me, a series of encounters that could be applied anywhere in the world. Avram says he likes to write up the tables. Yeah. I've done dream sequences when the party did something that ended up TPK, and mad is as the dream sequence was more of a premonition of things to come. I do have those. It's around 15 random. Oh, okay, good. So yeah, I mean, a lot of times DMs, I'll say this, something I've noticed doing this podcast for the last couple of months. A lot of times DMs either already have the answer that they're looking for or are already on the right track. And it sounds to me like you're already kind of on the right track. If you've got a random table, I don't think you have to have everything like in stone specifically. I think that keeping it random makes it more fun for you and the party. So you just keep being a good DM. Sounds like you've already got it handled. Thanks for the question, and thanks for watching. Moving on. Next question. The next question is from River. And I don't know if River's here this evening. I don't think so, but River's a good friend of the pod and the channel. River asks, what are your favorite voices / accents to use for a character and or NPC? The note that I have is old people voices, crazy people voices, unique / interesting. Also, I think it matters whether you're a DM or a player, because usually the DM is not going to have to do whatever the voice is for too terribly long, as opposed to if you decide on a character voice session 1, then you're going to be doing that voice for however long the campaign is, and that's a long time. So I made another note here with this that says something easy to come back to and stay in. You know, like a crazy, goofy, like, yes, of course, Rich, you're welcome. Thank you. Like a goofy, crazy old voice like Studebaker Peppercorn, like, oh, hello, how's it going? That stuff, nothing's more fun for me, whether it's DM or PC with that voice. I will say, as I mentioned earlier, you pick a voice and you kind of got to do that voice. There's a part of me that kind of regrets Verina's voice, if anyone's seen the We Play, because it's very raspy and brash and aggressive. And so it became not as fun to do late campaign, just because it was like, like her, it is not pleasant on the throat. And it was really funny when I did it at first, but then it's less funny 12, 15 sessions later, where it's just, you have to do that voice. So I would suggest to people when it comes to doing voices to do stuff that is easy to come back into. If you pick something that, gosh, I hate doing accents that I'm not good at, which is a lot. So like when we did, when we did English or British edition, whatever we called it, and then we did Australian edition, those accents are awful. So I try not to do accents, like specific accents, just because I'm not that great at them. But I do like doing funny voices, kooky voices. Try not to overdo it. Mumbling, talking fast. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think it'll little idiosyncrasies about the language make it fun too. Like Augustus Montgomery was fun because his bit was that he introduced himself always to everybody all the time, even if they already knew him. So, and his voice was really easy and chill to get into because it was just like, hello. Like, it's very like old school commercial, like old school radio commercial. My name is Augustus Mont. He's like really proper. That's a fun, easy voice to get into. As opposed to like opting to, there's no shot that I would ever create a character and then like make the choice that they have a British accent, because I know that I would have to carry the British accent for as long as the campaign was. So I guess the short answer is the voices that I prefer are the easy ones that I'm good at, ones that I'm already like comfortable with and I think are funny. Now, it's not to suggest that you shouldn't try new stuff, because you should always be open to experimenting with role play stuff at the table with voices, but I tend to fall back into what's comfortable for me. I can't do an accent to save my life, says Aaron. Yeah, I'm not that great at any of them, really. If it's a thing that I'm trying to do, I'm not good at it. But if it were just like naturally, the natural voices that just kind of come to you, those are the ones I like and recommend. Though I recommend that you use. So thank you, River. Bum, 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 bum. Holding Featherfall till the party gets close to the ground. All my games have moved to text-based, so no need for me to do voices. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I wonder what the voice stuff is going to look like in the future with the virtual tabletop stuff that Wizards is planning to do with one. Because you would expect that to be something that's either built in or would be an add-on later, at least, like voice modulation. If you're going to be interfacing with other members of the party or your DM online, being able to have... Oh, read previous message first. Sorry, Avram. I pictured Mustang Peppercorn like Aladdin when he says, "Do you trust me?" and jumps out of the falling Mind Flayer ship with a dwarf chick in hand, holding Featherfall till the party gets close to the ground. Hell yeah. My life has been threatened if I did not stop trying accents. Wow. Achea. If you have a soundboard, that's true, yeah. You just get a soundboard and do it yourself. But I imagine that it's going to just be part of like built into the game moving forward. So thank you, River. Moving right along. Moving right along to this next question, which is from William. And William asks, did you find that after you began to stream that the stories at your table changed at all? Like, were your personal campaigns feeling a lack of time invested in them, or did you find that the ideas became easier and your stories advanced? Well, I'll be forthright with you, William. I have not played D&D in a non-professional capacity in a really long time. Maybe almost 10 years. Certainly since we started the channel, any time I've played has been for the channel. So, in my experience, it wasn't so much that streaming games changed existing games. It replaced them. So it became this. This is now my D&D, but I want to play. I was just talking to Justin about it recently. I really want to play a 3.5 campaign. I was thinking about it. I was actually talking about it last week as well. So it sounds to me, William, and I don't want to be presumptuous, but it sounds like maybe you're considering doing streaming yourself, and you don't want that to interfere with your existing game. If that's true, then it's really going to be a matter of what matters more. So I think that maybe what you might have been alluding to in the question as to our games changing is that because we're streaming and we're in more of a public forum versus a private forum, like, are we maybe doing things we normally wouldn't do, or more likely not doing things we normally would do? And that's probably true, but I mean, that's going to be the case with anything across the board, right? Obviously, people are different in private than they are in public. I don't think that it does anything to change any of the integrity of the existing story stuff that you do off camera. So if it is something that you're looking to, if you're potentially considering doing streaming for D&D, and you're worried that that would interfere with your existing game, it's a question of what matters more to you. Does the potential, audience or community or revenue or career or whatever it is that's going to come from you streaming content, is it more important than you do that, or that you retain your world as it currently exists? Because it probably will change at a minimum. Like I said, we just don't play. Now, it's not that I don't have time at all. If I really wanted to, I'm sure that we could get a game going. In fact, I'd like to do that with a 3.5 campaign at some point. But it's a priority thing, right? When this thing, we never planned for this thing to pop off, and as the D&D editions, and when they did, we just kind of leaned into it and have been leaning into it, and we've been able to do, we've done really well with it. Thankfully, we're very fortunate that the community is great as to showing up every week to watch the episodes and sharing them and commenting for the algorithm and all the super chats and patrons, and it's great. All of that for me makes it not as tough that I haven't played D&D in a long time. If I did, would we put it online? Yeah. That's the thing too, is that like now I'm in this space where it's like, if I'm going to play it, I'm going to monetize it, because I just don't have the time to spend if it's not moving the channel forward, I guess. Oh, I'm glad that you enjoyed military. Thanks for watching. Just finished your game earlier. You made your players a grumpy ghost laugh to let them out of a room in a haunted mansion. Just felt like sharing the idea. Oh, I'm sorry. I misread that completely. You made your players make a grumpy ghost laugh to let them out of a room in a haunted mansion. That's kind of cool. Love you guys. Love what you do. Look forward to what you guys post. Oh, well, thank you, Michael. Thank you for showing up. Glad you're here. So, where are we? We're with William, right? Yeah. I'd say you've got a question as to what's the more important thing for you. But one thing I will say, I've loved being in this like niche little D&D online community world. It's great. The people are great. The short answer is that when you stream, I think that everybody makes a little, first of all, everybody puts on like their public face, right? Everybody has like their who they are at home and then who they are in society. So already, even me doing this podcast, there's a level of like, I'm not being 100% authentic as to maybe things that I would say or do in private versus what you're presenting publicly. So there's going to be a change there. I think that it just matters. It's just a question as to what matters more to you. Personally, I think that you should stream if you're considering it. And I don't know anything about your age. I think that you might have mentioned that you're maybe an older guy, maybe a gray beard, one of the OGs. And if that's the case, I would encourage you even further to stream because we need more of that stuff. So, Military Edition was great. Former Army, and it cracked me up. I'm good. I'm glad. Man, you found Man Shorts by accident, but you've been a fan ever since. Well, I'm glad. Cat Jazz Happy Cat. That's a cool name. Okay, so thank you for the question, William. Let's keep it moving. We're going to move on to this next question from Gronk, which I don't know if Gronk's here, but if you are, hey, Gronk. Hey, anyway, I guess, if you're going to listen to this. Let's see what Gronk says. Gronk asks, inter-party conflict. When is it good? When is it bad? My short answer is that inter-party conflict's always good for the DM, right? Theoretically, depending on what you want to accomplish. So I think it depends on what the inter-party conflict is. Is that in-game or at the table? Because those are two different conversations. If you're having conflict at the table, that's almost never good. What I think you're talking about is RP, in-game, in-party. So I made a couple of notes here. From One Piece, you have Zoro and Sanji. But then from like Dragon Ball, you have like Goku and Vegeta. And there's characters across the nerd stuff that have this kind of relationship, like I guess I'm thinking all of an anime, like Deku and Bakugo from My Hero Academia. There can be good that comes from inter-party conflict if, depending on what that inter-party conflict is. Like, so in One Piece, Zoro and Sanji kind of like butt heads as like to try and outperform one another. And so that lends itself to them like doing a lot of cool stuff because they're trying to like one up each other. So there's like some competition, like some friendly competition. Oh, hey, Daryl, thank you for the super chat of $5 donation. And you appreciate this. Well, we appreciate you. Thank you for showing up. Really appreciate the super chat. That stuff goes a long way in getting directly to us for support. In game, as long as everyone is cool with it, out of game, then why not? So, yeah, I think that it can be good if there's like some competition going on, or the note that I have here is that it's good when it moves the story forward and or creates incentive or initiative. So I am a player, when I run players, not always, but a lot of times I'm an instigator. I'm the one that's going to like go off track from whatever the rest of the party's doing. Like I'm going to push the button when you're not supposed to. And so that said, sometimes I can be a hindrance to the party, but there have been several times over the course of my playing career that my instigating behavior was actually helpful for the party. It actually moved us forward. We were actually like kind of at a lull or kind of at a standstill before my crazy action that moved it forward. So, you know, and almost always there's like a little bit of static between me and the rest of the party just because they know that I play that way. So they're expecting me to get people in trouble. I put a note that says it's bad when it deviates from the story and or interferes with other players' experiences in a negative way. So, oh, see you around, Chris. Thank you for coming to hang. Always fun having you here with the jokes. Appreciate you coming and hanging around. I hope you have a great evening. So yeah, if it's messing the party up, and you'd be able to tell, I would think. I would hope. You would hope that a player would call it out directly if you weren't able to pick up on it at the table. But I think that inter-party conflict can be, in fact, great if it's channeled properly. And some of that, unfortunately, is on you as the DM. Not all of it, right? Obviously, if we're playing with adults, everybody's in charge of their own person and their own player and their own character. But you also have a little bit of responsibility there as the DM with that kind of stuff. Because if you do have two players that are like Goku and Vegeta and they're butting heads all the time, you have to manage that somehow. So, yeah, I think that answers it. It's good when it moves the story forward or creates incentive or initiative among the other players, and it's bad if it deviates or interferes with other players' experiences. So, and that can happen too. Like, even if you have a situation where it's like two people that are really competitive, you might have one person in the party who's like, there's just too many variables to consider. It obviously it depends on the party, but I think that it can be good. To say that inter-party conflict is always bad, I think is short-sighted. I think that it can be good. As a DM, you have to herd the cats, so to speak. It's your job. Yes, Demetrius, yes. That is true. It is herding cats. It's a lot of you just kind of letting them bumble around and trying your best to keep them on some roadway to an ending somewhere. You think it's on part of the DM to make sure both players are comfortable. Some players are too shy to voice their discomfort. That's true. Yeah, that's another part of that responsibility beyond just moving the general story forward. You're responsible pretty much for the players at the table's experience. So if you've got, a couple of goofballs that are, taking up too much time with RP stuff or making the other player feel like they can't move forward in their RP because maybe... This is just an example. Like, let's say you've got a barbarian and a rogue, and the whole inter-party conflict with those two characters is that they have got like a Legolas Gimli thing going on, where it's like it's a friendly competition kind of thing where it becomes about like killing enemies. If you've got a member of the party that's, say, somebody who's more studious, who wants to, their RP is not as combat centric or combat related, then that can be frustrating if you allow those two combat competitors to drive the narrative of the party, and then that person doesn't get to do their RP that they want to because they're constantly in combat, because these two instigators are constantly bringing combat to the party. So it can get out of hand. You just have to kind of keep an eye on it, I guess. As a DM, I always take it as my duty to feed the players when I host at your house. Oh, yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, you should feed people. If people are coming to your house, you should offer them food and drink. I mean, as best you can. For anything. Especially if they're coming to your house to, like, play a TTRPG for 4, 5, 6 hours. Tell your players to leave it at the door if it's before game stuff. Yeah, that too. That's another thing is like really keeping the outer stuff separate from the inner stuff. So like you might have been possibly talking about at the table conflict, in which case I don't know if there's any instance where that's good. I was thinking about that earlier today too. It's hard enough to play this game already. It's hard enough without overcomplicating it by there being bad blood between players at the table or whatever the case may be. in-home D&D is almost always ordering pizza. So hopefully that gives you somewhat of an answer there, Gronk. I think that it can be good, but usually it's not great. Usually it just adds to the cat herding process. Oh, thank you, Demetrius, for becoming a dungeon crawler. Welcome. Much appreciated. So, thank you, Gronk. This last question, and you're not going to believe it, is from Chris. And this is actually from one of the Chris's that asked the question last week about not necessarily rehashing, but like kind of reworking existing modules and homebrews and stuff for the table at home. I just wanted to include this question, not only so that I could answer you directly, Chris, but also so that this information can kind of be known to the community in general, as it were. So, Chris asks, would it be okay to use your characters in a session? Not only is it okay, but I, with fervor, encourage you to use any of the stuff we've made. It's one of the reasons that I like making it. Anytime, we do this show once a week, or at least it's been, well, we do this show, the podcast, once a week, but we do the D&D edition once a week. And we've done that for quite some time. And I will say, one of the more rewarding and fun things for me is knowing that whenever we do an episode, in addition to it being a good silly goose time where everybody's laughing and it's funny, I think that it also can be really, it can trigger ideas for people. It can inspire people to do stuff. And we've gotten more than one comment and message over the years about stuff that we've done in episodes that it just, it sparks a thought that somebody maybe had never thought of before. As to our stuff, definitely use that. Like, I'm of the opinion of, when it comes to anything really, that like once you create it, it belongs to the universe. Not to say that you shouldn't be able to profit off of your property, of your IP and stuff, because, you still got to be able to do that. Excuse me. But what I mean is, like the song Rage, that belongs to the community. Any of my music does, really. And especially when it comes to D&D content, like the edition stuff, as far as I'm concerned, that's all fair game. I mean, I can't do anything about what you do at your table anyway, but I wouldn't want to. You should be able to play the game that you want to play. And if that is, playing as a character that has been run before or using a made-up item that we made up, go for it. Please. Avram, yes. Mustang Peppercorn is a great example. Thank you. Avram, I ran a character in our Airships of Nuada campaign named Studebaker Peppercorn. Studebaker Peppercorn was one of 11 siblings, one of which was Mustang Peppercorn. And Avram has run Mustang Peppercorn in this campaign for quite some time. And I've been told that people exist in... I've been told that I exist as that I or other players exist as characters in people's worlds. That's awesome. That makes me really happy. So, yeah, I greatly encourage. Yeah, we don't have an OGL that you need to sign. Oh no, there's the motorcycle guy. Oh, the motorcycle guy. It's like Chevy Chase and Funny Farm with the mailman. He's just like, he comes, just well, hey, look, at least it's not 2 a.m. 11 o'clock's not that crazy for motorcycling, but still a little late. Flint, your songs Rage and Frenzy are absolute fire, hands down my favorite ones. Oh, thank you, Flint. I'm glad. I think that y'all might really like No GL, because I think I talked about this a little last week, but I just really wanted to touch on it again too. I really debated not doing the diss track thing, especially since they've like seemingly walked things back. But I do believe it needs to exist for posterity's sake. And who knows, maybe somebody over there will hear it and it will serve them as a warning for not doing this kind of stuff in the future. Because that's really the essence of the diss track, as it were. Again, I don't have a release date on that, unfortunately, but it will be coming soon in the next week or two because Bobby's just finishing up the mix. I'm glad that you enjoy the music. Thank you. Thank you all. I'm working on that third album. Hopefully I can get it out this year, you know. I need like a personal assistant. Bring back Barry and DM therapy. Yeah, I don't know what it's going to look like when we do ultimately play 3-5 because I really want to. And I talked to Justin about it and he said he's down. So we're going to talk to other people about it. Let's see if we can get some people to play with us. But yeah, I'm super down to play 3-5. You absolutely love the show. Wish you would do an actual play one shot, the actors, not as the characters. Yeah, we've not actually ever, funny enough, not done like a one shot that is just the players from the show. That'd be kind of fun to do, though. Maybe we could do that as like a little special. Can't go back to 3-5 Pathfinder spoiled. Yeah, well, mechanically, right? But how much? There's got to be more. Oh, there he goes. There he goes again. This motorcycle guy. Oh, wow, I'm cool. What were we just talking about? Not Studebaker peppercorn. Have I ever tried to design my own play system? I have not. I've considered it. I certainly. He's doing what's he doing? He's being an American. He's doing whatever the heck he's being well, I shouldn't even say that. It's really more Floridian because we just like don't have rules down here about like anything. So, you know, it's nice on the one hand, but then on the other hand, there's not really any rules about anything. So it's just kind of like, it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic world down here. We were talking about Pathfinder mechanics. Oh, yeah. There's way more 3-5 content than there is Pathfinder content, right? Am I crazy? Am I wrong about that? I think that there's a lot. There's so many damn 3-5 books. It's crazy town. Like, I think that there's like over 40. Maybe even over 60. Just like Ohio. Yeah, Ohio's that way too. And Texas too. Yeah, there's like a handful of states here where it's just like, you could just do whatever. There's a small group of street racers that take over an old strip mall parking lot across the street every Saturday. Oh, nightmare. Gosh. Well, honestly, that makes me feel better. Justin, get out of there. 3-5 was the best edition and most popular. Yeah, it's really good, man. I was just like, I find myself weekly just perusing through books, just going through like The Adventurer or The Scoundrel or the PHB 2, Stormwreck. Some really good books. You think second edition has the most books, 50 to 60 monster manuals and like 150 to 200 stab books? Are you serious? Holy guacamole. That's a lot. Dang, that makes me want to like learn and play second edition. Like on the real tip, I might grab like an AD&D PHB. Is that what it was called back then? I mean, hey. This is, you know, with all this stuff that's gone on with the OGL these last couple of months and Magic and just Hasbro and Wizards in general, this is kind of the era of new TTRPG stuff. So who knows, man? Maybe we'll make a game. Maybe Justin and I will make a game. Whether it's a whole new system or whether it's like HeroScape or a combination of the two. That'd be really fun. Ooh, it'd be really fun to have a combination of like the Hasbro, of like the concept of D&D mixed with the concept of HeroScape. That'd be kind of fun. Moved from Oregon just over a year ago. Oh yeah, that must be a big difference. Oregon to Texas. Putting together some 3.5 NPCs as you're watching this. Oh, nice. Traps and treasury. HeroScape, Flint, is a hex-based game that I guess was only out for a couple of years. They manufactured it. But there were a lot of different ways that you could play it. But essentially, there were a bunch of different heroes. So all kinds of stuff. There were people that were like secret agents, like Men in Black type agents. And then they're like, you know, there's a guy that's an archer. Some of them are single heroes and others are groups. But essentially all of them have cards. And then it's a role system that's kind of... The dice rolling system is very like you either hit or you miss. Like that's the die that you're rolling. Hero Quest. What is Hero Quest? I don't know what Hero Quest is. That's a different game. Oh. Is that the idea that I had for a game that already exists? Yeah, I'm talking about HeroScape though. Okay, look, it says here, it was an expandable, fun, turn-based mini wargaming system originally manufactured by Hasbro subsidiaries from 2004 until its discontinuation in 2010. Yeah, man, I loved HeroScape. It was really cool. And there was like different terrain on the tiles. So, and that terrain affected you differently. If you've played Gloomhaven, it's like that, but it doesn't take a year to set up, Justin says. Whoa, Justin, did you change your avatar? That's cool. Oh, there's a motorcycle guy again. Oh, oh. It's all over the place down here. All right, I'm getting a little loopy. Just making motorcycle sounds at this point. I wanted to go a little bit over an hour so that I have some space there to cut things, but I think it's about time for us to wrap it up. Did we answer that last question, by the way? Oh, yeah, definitely. Not only is it okay, it's encouraged. Go forth, all ye players, and use our stuff, use our content to make your games more fun. But yeah, we're going to head out, gang. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming and hanging out. Motorcycle guy. I will be here next week, same Bard time, same Bard channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Man Schwartz YouTube channel. This episode, the audio will be available tomorrow, Saturday at noon, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So 9 a.m. if you're on the West Coast. I hope everybody stays safe. I hope everybody's having a great weekend and has a great weekend. I will see you next week. Take it easy.